Hello everybody, welcome to Boxing Science. In this video we're going to be breaking down what Terrence Crawford needs to do in order to prepare for his mega fight with Canelo Alvarez. So this is a fight that's been rumoured for many months, and now we've got the confirmation that this fight, mega fight, is going to take place in Las Vegas in September 2025. Now the reason why it's such a big fight is because it's a battle of the undisputed champions, Terrence Crawford winning 2 weight undisputed titles, and also they're both 4-weight world champions. The only difference is Terrence Crawford has done that between lightweight and super welterweight. Canelo has done that between light middleweight and light heavyweight. You've got fighters that are only overlapping in the lightest division and the heaviest division. Now there's a big jump that Terrence Crawford needs to make. He's only just started campaigning at super welterweight or light middleweight. Now he's got to put on 24 pounds to take on Canelo Alvarez. So the big questions are, how is Terrence Crawford going to perform at this increased weight? And also, is Canelo going to be too big, too strong, too powerful for Terrence Crawford? And that has often been the case when you've seen fighters step up weight divisions and multiple weight divisions. You know, you could class this as Terrence Crawford stepping up 3 weight divisions to take on Canelo Alvarez. Often is the case that there's weight divisions for a reason, but because Terrence Crawford is so skilled, Canelo isn't the biggest super middleweight around. There's a lot of people that think that Crawford might win. It's worth having a look at what Crawford needs to do to make sure that he's taking that performance up the weight divisions, making sure that he's fit, he's fast, he's strong, he's powerful at super middleweight. So in this video, we're going to be looking at some of the potential training methods that could benefit Terrence Crawford when he's stepping up super middleweight to take on Canelo Alvarez. So these training methods that we're going to suggest are methods that we've used with fighters when they're looking to put on mass. 2 key athletes that we've actually used these with: Fabio Wardley, who was a British heavyweight champion and now the #1 in the WBA world heavyweight rankings, so it's a #1 contender. Now, when we first worked with Fabio, he was under 220 pounds. Now he's fighting at 240 pounds. So we've put on that mass very steadily over the last 5 years, and to make sure that he's putting on functional mass, keeping speed, and also working on that high intensity fitness as well. Another fight is a similar situation to Canelo versus Crawford, is when Kell Brook stepped up 2 weight divisions to take on Gennady Golovkin, where we had to work around him stepping up from welterweight to middleweight and take them physical qualities that he had at welterweight. He had very good fitness, very good speed, and unbelievable strength as a welterweight, and we had to try and take that up 2 weight divisions in a very short time frame. So some of these training methods that we're going to suggest have actually been implemented at the highest level. So the first thing would be to make sure that you're stacking on the weight steady and also putting on muscle in the right areas. So when you're looking to step up in weight, you're not particularly wanting to just pile on the pound straight away, because your body has to adapt to that increased weight load. That's why we see a lot of fighters when they come back in from training camp with a little bit more weight, a little bit more fat mass, they're going to be feeling it a little bit harder on the runs, circuits, and everything like that. So it's really important to make sure that you stack that weight on very steadily. Now, Terrence Crawford has recently posted on social media that he's at 186 pounds. So he's already heavier than the super middleweight limit. He's actually having to cut down nearly 20 pounds in weight. This is often the case because fighters, even though when they step up weight divisions, they actually walk around a lot heavier and they feel like, actually, I'm actually still cutting down to this weight division. The only thing is, what I'd say is to make sure that you're getting a good body composition analysis on this, because you're not wanting to put on mass that's not going to be as functional. You're not wanting to be just, right, I'm at 186 pounds and this is fat mass. You're wanting to make sure that you're increasing that muscle mass steadily to get to that weight division, to be as strong and as fit as possible at that weight division. And also the muscle mass has to be in the right areas. When you're moving up weight divisions, you've got to make sure that you're putting on mass in the right areas. So we found that lean muscle mass of the trunk is the biggest contributor towards punch power. And this is probably due to the rotational forces during a punch. The second biggest contributing factor was lower body muscle mass, and the one that had the weakest correlation to punching power was upper limb muscle mass. So muscle mass on the arms. So the last thing that you want to be doing to try and put on weight is to just doing those bicep curls, tricep extensions, focusing on the arms, because essentially this is going to be slowing down the punches at heavy weight. You're wanting to try and put on loads of muscle around the trunk. So the main way to do that is to be doing compound lifts, such as trap bar deadlift, box squats, trying to load up trunk musculature, but increasing the amount of core work that you do. Whether it's doing like some circuits, working on oblique muscles, so doing some anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion work, doing some cable rotations and farmer walks, but mainly doing some time under tension work. So doing some like core circuits and some isometric core holds will be beneficial for increasing muscle mass around the trunk. So this is what we do at Boxing Science to make sure that we're retaining and maintaining muscle mass of the trunk when we are making weight. And this is seen in like the transformation pictures that you can see now, where fighters are clearly putting on the muscle mass around the trunk. And the thing is with these fighters here is that they're actually lighter in the after picture than they were in the before picture. So they're looking bigger, a lot stronger around the core, but they're actually lighter. So that's the main thing that you need to do when putting on muscle mass, is target muscle mass around the trunk area, because this is going to have the biggest impact on your punch power. Then when we're talking about putting on the mass, is making sure that this is done in a functional way. So making sure that we are putting on fast twitch muscle fibers instead of just doing some general hypertrophy training. When you're doing training like a bodybuilder, you're activating slow twitch muscle fibers. And this can essentially make a fighter slower when putting on muscle mass. At Boxing Science, we do a range of different hypertrophy training methods to make sure that we're targeting fast twitch muscle fiber hypertrophy and also keeping speed within the program. The 4 key ways that we try and put on muscle mass is using cluster sets. This is increasing the amount of load and the rate of force development under high amounts of reps. So this is where we're doing a set of 8 reps back to back. We're doing 4 reps, resting, and then doing another 4 reps. And this can be done on exercises such as like the landmine squat and the trap bar deadlift, and also can be done on our upper body lifts. Drop sets, this is where we are doing a high amount of weight load, dropping it down and dropping down the weight. So we've got the first 4 reps at higher thresholds. This is going to be activating the high threshold motor units during a higher volume set. We can do supersets. So that's where we are pairing a compound exercise with an assistance exercise. Then also what we can do is blood flow restriction training. So this is where we are restricting blood flow towards the working muscles. This fatigues the slow twitch muscle fibers and activates the fast twitch muscle fibers. And this is also targeting muscular hypertrophy under less load. So when you are looking to try and put on the pounds in terms of increasing muscle mass, if you're doing a large amount of volume and a large amount of tension, this can leave an athlete sore. And when you're actually looking to try and perform in your boxing training, this is the last thing that you want to make your athlete. So actually looking to try and put on muscle mass, we want to try and do it in the most effective and efficient way. So doing it with blood flow restriction training can help do it at a lot lesser load to make sure that athlete is increasing muscular hypertrophy, but it's not actually affecting soreness through the muscles and through the tendons and ligaments as well. So they're the 4 key ways that I look to try and put on functional muscle mass to help benefit boxing performance. So also a crucial thing to do is to keep speed part of the program. When you're putting on muscle mass and putting on mass in general, this can affect the amount of speed and power that you can produce. So we need to keep speed in the program, whether that's plyometrics, whether that's upper body ballistics, punch-specific exercises, just making sure that speed remains in the program as you're putting on that body weight. What's really important as well, which is probably what I see being the key thing that is affected with increasing mass, is reactive strength. So that is reactive strength through the foot complex and through the calf complex as well. In particular, contact time. So when you're putting on mass, it'll affect that reactive strength and that ability to create very short ground contact times. And this can transfer towards increased foot speed and coordination. And this is something that Crawford will potentially use to his advantage against Canelo, especially at that higher weight. Last thing that he needs to do is put on that mass without focusing on improving that reactive strength through the foot and calf complex. So exercises such as bar assisted purgers, band assisted purgers, and also doing some footwork ladder drills. This can be really crucial in improving that reactive strength and keeping that speed as part of the program. Then doing stuff like cant movement jumps, box jumps, dumbbell jumps to make sure that you're still targeting speed and speed strength throughout the program. And then doing some punch specific training as well. So doing some med ball throws to make sure that you're keeping that speed strength as part of your program to transfer that speed through to a heavier weight. So now we're going to look at high intensity conditioning. So the biggest thing to really focus on when putting on mass and size is to try and maintain condition, because once you put on mass, you're going to become less conditioned. The biggest factor is because it doesn't really affect VO2 max as such, like doing it pound for pound. It mostly affects, when you put on muscle, increase lactate accumulation. So your muscle cell becomes more acidic. And this is where you're feeling that lactic acid buildup, whether it's in your upper body or your legs, when you're going through them high intensity bursts. And this is what Terrence Crawford's going to have to work on in this fight. He's going to have to be working in them high intensity bursts and moving out of the way. Putting on mass, working in high intensity bursts, this is going to make the cell more acidic. So what we need to do is to work on peripheral adaptations. This helps extract oxygen from the blood that's being delivered towards a working muscle. And this is really vital in improving aerobic capacity, especially at a heavier weight. So peripheral adaptations targeted with 30-second max out sprints with 3 minutes recovery. Then also what we need to do is to control the amount of lactic acid that's being built up at the muscle. So this is where we use our muscle buffering capacity sessions. So this is where we're targeting a certain amount of lactate to condition our muscles to be able to buffer lactate out of the muscle. What we need to do is essentially to not let that lactic acid get out of control and our athletes feeling really fatigued. And the main way to do this is through 2-minute intervals, so 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, or 3 minutes off, around about a 7 or 8 out of 10 RPE. But the main thing that we do at Boxing Science is look at blood lactate values. We're wanting to target that blood lactate values between 10 and 12 millimole. Some fighters are between 12 and 14 millimole per litre. It's quite interesting because, as mentioned in the introduction, when we come up with this challenge, when increasing muscle mass and increasing body weight for the first time, was when Kell Brook fought Gennady Golovkin, moved up from welterweight up to middleweight. We needed a conditioning drill to target muscle buffering capacity, but also work in bursts at the same time. So the gold standard session was 2 minutes on, 3 minutes off, working between 10 and 12 millimole per litre. But through discussions with the team and myself and Alan Ruddock, we said that we're needing him to probably be working with speed, working in bursts. We need a different kind of session that'll be working muscle buffering capacity, but also working on that repeated sprint endurance. And this is where he came up with the session 12 seconds on, 48 seconds off, between 15 and 20 reps. And this was the right amount of intensity, right amount of work to rest ratio. It was getting between that 10 and 12 millimole per litre. And this worked really well with Kell going into this fight. And this is something that we've kept part of the program and one of our most effective conditioning sessions that we use at Boxing Science. And this is where we're running or on the air bike around about 80 to 90% of maximum speed and power. And we're targeting, again, 7 to 8 out of 10 RPE, or between 10 and 14 millimole per litre of blood lactate levels. And these sessions are really vital for any athlete that are looking to work speed and power endurance, but particularly important with any athlete that's looking to put on muscle mass going into the fight. So it's really vital for Terrence Crawford going into this fight to be able to control that rise in lactate so he can work in bursts more effectively over the 12 rounds. Okay, so the final, but probably the most important thing in preparation for this fight is to get the pacing right of the fight. Because if you're going in a lot heavier than what you've done previously and you are going at the same output, no matter how much fitness work that you're doing, that's going to have a detrimental effect. So you're going to be feeling a lot more fatigue, especially going into them later rounds. So getting the pacing right in this fight is really vital. Now, we've seen Crawford step up from welterweight to super welterweight, and we've actually seen a reduction in his output. Whether this is tactical, whether it's because wary of Madrimov's power, what Madrimov were doing in terms of feint and offsetting Crawford, it's indication that Crawford might make it a little bit of a technical chess match rather than a firefight. And I think that that's going to be beneficial to him because obviously he don't want to be caught by too big a punches with Canelo. He wants to box and move and get out of the way. But also from a conditioning perspective, it's important to get that right. and also to get that right in terms of sparring, in terms of preparation as well, is to have a set amount, kind of target in terms of amount of punches thrown within the spar, get conditioned towards that, get conditioned to a little bit higher than that if you're needing to be working in them bursts, and then obviously in the fight, have the tactics right there to be able to work at a controlled intensity rather than trying to throw as many punches as you can. Doing this at heavier weight is going to be detrimental to fitness, especially towards the back end of the fight. Okay, so that is the end of this ultimate breakdown of the potential training methods that Terrence Crawford could implement in his preparations for Canelo Alvarez, jumping up 2 weight divisions. Some might say that he's jumping up 3 weight divisions from welterweight through to super middleweight. It comes with challenges, so it's going to be interesting to see how Crawford adapts his training methods going into this fight. But you look at his training methods that he does already. He's a big advocate for strength and conditioning. He does some work in the UFC Performance Institute, working with Gav Pratt, doing some heavy lifting as well, like this heavy lift of doing a rack RDL here. Really, really strong. So he's got the strength, technical know-how to be able to move up this weight divisions. He's coming up against no ordinary super middleweight. He's going to go down as an all-time great in Sal Canelo Alvarez. So it's going to be really interesting to see this fight. But I think that Crawford has everything in there to make this into a very, very intriguing and close fight. Whether he wins or not, this is what we'll see on the night. Okay guys, so that's the end of this video. So thank you very much for watching. If you've got any comments or questions, leave them in the comment box below. If you like this kind of video, hit the like button so it supports the growth of this video, and support the growth of the Boxing Silence YouTube channel by hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content. Thank you very much for watching, and see you on the next video.